Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Alexandra, and I will be your host today for this Youth for Europe talk. Today's topic will be environment, and me as a participant in one of the youth exchanges in the environment area have this pleasure to greet everyone and to present our participants and our special guests. But before introducing all of them, I would just like to introduce the project itself for those who don't know about this project. So Youth for Europe project had the aim to gather young people and allow them to participate actively in the process of policymaking, allowing them to tackle just a little bit the topics of environment, media, job, and education. This project involved more than 100 youngsters from Italy, Germany, UK, Spain, and Romania. And it was really, really wonderful to see just how much effort these young people have put in the whole process. I would like to welcome all the audience that is following us live on Facebook, to remind them that they can write their questions in the chat, and we will try to answer as many as we can after the discussion. I would like to welcome our participants, Sofia and Denita, and last but not least, a warm welcome, our special guest, a member of European Parliament, a member of Committee of the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety, Miss Eleonora Evi. Welcome, Miss Evi, benvenuta, and thank you very much for joining us today in our discussion. Would you like to just shortly introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you, and thank you so much for inviting me to talk about these huge and paramount topics, which is environment and climate. It's really the topic today. I am a member of the European Parliament. I've been re-elected for my second mandate, and I've been working in the past mandate and in the current one in the ENVI committee, which is the Committee for Environment, Public Health and Food Safety. But I'm also a member of the Petition Committee, which is a small committee inside the European Parliament, and I wanted to stress this because it's the real open door for citizens to participate to the European debates, and I really welcome and suggest everybody to use petitions, also to file petitions to the European Parliament, because we really need more tools for direct democracy and for participation. And I'm a member also of the ITRE committee, which is the Committee for Industries and Energy, and where the main changes will have to occur very soon for the well-being of our planet.
Thank you, Ms. Evi, for this short introduction. And as you mentioned, you've been re-elected to be again a member of European Parliament. And if I did my research right, you've been a member since 2014.
Exactly.
And I saw that you've been tackling a lot of different topics: the climate change, the vehicle emission, the farming, the intensive farming. So I was wondering, when was the moment when you decided and when you said, okay, I don't want to watch anymore, I want to act, I want to actively change my surrounding?
Well, this happened back in 2010 when I was an activist of, let's say, a newly born political movement in Italy, which is a 5-star movement. And I started to simply being an activist and campaigning for example, asking for the management of public services to be public, the water management to be public, or against the nuclear energy, for example. We collected a lot of signatures to have referendum on that issues. And well, at that time, I really felt I was called to do something. I couldn't stay just sat down on the sofa seeing things changing and not doing something. And that's why I decided to join these political forces and the political the five-star movement. And simply when I decided then to put my CV online, we had an online system, an online platform to decide our candidates, and I've been selected, and then later on I've also been elected, and really I couldn't expect something like that in my previous life. And therefore, when I was elected, I decided to continue to work on the same issues, on environment and energy in particular. But yes, I've been working a lot on industrial farming. This is another area where Europe especially has to do a lot. Industrial farming is one of the root causes of climate changes and the pollution of our soil, our water and air. And unfortunately, so far, the system is really more beneficial to big players instead of the smallest one. We really have to rebalance also the sector of agriculture and farming. And I hope that the new proposal of the European Commission and this new European Commission will deliver solutions and good proposals on that. We will keep our eyes very, very open on these new proposals.
Thank you, Ms. Evi. And speaking about the proposals, do you think that a new proposal, new strategy, the biodiversity strategy that was published yesterday, if I'm not wrong, do you think it can at least tackle, if not maybe completely solve, these issues you were mentioning?
Well, it is a very good first step, in my opinion, because for the first time we have really put a focus on biodiversity, which is really at its worst crisis. Just imagine we, out of the 8 million species in the world, on the planet, we are put on concrete danger 1 million species that are really risking to be extinct soon. This has been really to be tackled, and the new strategy proposed by the European Commission yesterday seems to go in the right direction, because not only speaks about the more effort on protection of natural areas, on more effort to increase such areas and to protect better the ones that are already protected, but to enlarge these areas. It speaks about restoring damaged areas, so where we have problems, we have to bring back nature. Speaks about planting trees, and this is also something good, even though we always have to remember that all the trees capture more CO2 and are better for the entire ecosystems, because we don't have to forget that soil and biodiversity living in forests are there, and they're so precious and have to be protected. And there are other important objectives. For example, the proposal to keep 10% of the agricultural land to be dedicated to nature, and this is something good to try to reverse the crisis and the damaging and the decrease of biodiversity that we are facing in Europe. This strategy has been proposed yesterday together with the farm to fork strategy, and I really hope these two strategies will be the legs on which the European Green Deal will work on the next coming years, because also the farm to fork strategy is very much important, because for the first time gives some targets for reduction on the use of pesticides, for example. I know that many NGOs and people were claiming for a higher reduction target, but nevertheless, the 50% target envisaged by the Commission is a first step. Now, I would say that the game have started. Now the time is to amend and change and possibly make these two strategies the best framework for the next coming legislation to be binding, because we always have also to remember that these are strategies, so nothing binding, nothing that will become really a regulation or directive, but just strategies. Out of these strategies will have to the European Commission will have to propose binding regulation, and we will need binding regulation as soon as possible to really have clear objectives and to boost the transition.
Thank you very much, Ms. Evi. And I agree that we should all start with the small steps in order to achieve the big goal and to fight the big issues we are facing today. Unfortunately, we are very limited with time today, so I would suggest just to make the best of it and to start with the proposals and with the event we are here for today. So I would like to introduce first Danica from Romania, who will tell us something more about her group's proposal, Change to the 5 Green Stars. Danica, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Alexandra. I will share my screen now. Thank you, Alexandra, and thank you, Youth for Europe, for this opportunity. I'm so glad to represent our proposals titled A Change to the 5 Green Stars. My name is Denisa Gătan, and our team is made by Robert Dumbrava, Ander Garcia, and Lidia Cologna. In our opinion, the cities do not offer enough attention to environment issue, considering two main sources of pollution. As in cities, there are many power stations, factories, and a lot of car emission. Have you ever think about the quality of the air we all breathe every day? It is known that the air from cities is very polluted, and this directly affects the health of citizens. Research shows that 7 billion of people are dying each year from air pollution. The lack of green area is the main cause of extreme weather change. For example, extreme temperatures, floods, acid rain, tornado, increase of ocean acidification. And that means that the ocean replaced the green area deficit, absorbing the carbon dioxide like a forest. And the biggest and the worst problem is the human ignorance, and we have to stop it. Starting from the idea that people are more motivated when they have a goal, and they are much more united when the goal is common, we realize the concept of 5 green stars, considering that they will be more open in ecological issue. For every star, it will be an ecological level standard based on the real statistic information following the model of tourism industry. That means that the more eco you are, the more stars you can get. The topic that will be taken into consideration are waste management, renewable energy, green area, eco-transportation. I will give you an example for the first star. The expert will set the percentage of green area, eco-buildings, eco-transportation for each year, for each cities based on the real statistic information. For people to join together for a common goal, we need European Union to support change to the 5 green stars to develop more green cities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Danica, for sharing your proposal with us. And now, if you agree, Ms. Evi, I would like you just to give some feedback and your opinion about the proposal we just heard.
Yes, in my opinion, it is a very good proposal because the European Commission and in general the European Union has in the past tried to push for a regulatory framework to increase the well-being and the sustainability of cities. But in my opinion, so far, this has not been really a result achieved. There are several initiatives out there, for example, the European Green Capital Initiative of the European Green Leaf Initiatives, and there are even the Urban Agenda. There are some strategies and some recommendations, but in my opinion, introducing a system that really try to rank cities and to give them not only the possibility to improve, but also to show the way they are improving, and in this sense showing they are really taking care of the well-being of their citizens and of the environment. It's really an important thing. I come from a region, which is the Lombardy region. I come from Milan, which is one of the regions where has the poorest quality of the air, not only because of the pollution of our region, but also because of the geographical situation. We have the Alps that really create like an area where air does not circulate. But this cannot be an excuse. We have this situation, therefore the cities must be really more encouraged to put in place solutions to tackle these issues and not consent people to breathe a very bad quality air. And in this sense, I really appreciate this project, and I really hope, even because as far as I know, the European Commission itself is in search of new tools that will allow cities to benchmark their environmental performances, assessing the progress in comparison with other cities, and sharing best practices is also another good point, because best practices are always important ways to share good solutions, and these systems could be really be beneficial for that.
Thank you, Ms. Evi. So as we mentioned for a couple of times now during this talk, Europe is facing great environmental problems. And according to the latest State of the Environment report published by the European Environment Agency, Europe will not meet its 2030 targets unless urgent actions are taken over the next 10 years to address the alarming rates of biodiversity loss, the growing impact of climate change, as you already mentioned. So we were wondering if you believe that by implementing this proposal, the Green Cities proposal, this will help solve the problems that are published by the European Environment Agency, or they should be maybe combined with the other proposals that already exist, as you mentioned?
Well, of course, these solutions cannot be just one single how can I say, way. We have to combine different proposals and different solutions to really tackle this huge problem that we are facing, not only, as you said, climate change, biodiversity crisis, and air pollution, waste management. We need a different and various set of tools. Therefore, I believe regulations coming from the European Commission and European level are important, and I also want to underline one point, one aspect. Many times from the European Union we have good legislation in place. The main problem is the application and the enforcement of such rules. This is also an area where we have to pay attention. But on the other side, all the initiatives that can come from a bottom-up approach, and therefore coming from the cities with the help and the encourage of the European level, this would be beneficial. And a system like that of evaluating the performances of cities through a ranking and a system of stars is, I really believe, a trigger initiative that really can can make our cities reach those goals and those objectives that unfortunately today we are really struggling to get. So it's a set of tools, in my opinion, that has to be combined, and each project can really make and play its role in this huge adventure, let's call it like this, that we have to embark on.
Thank you, Miss Eleonora. And for sure, it's a big adventure, but I believe that nowadays we have even more youngsters that are willing to take the actions in their hands and start this adventure. So I believe that now is the time to pass to our second proposal. So today with us, we have Sophia from Germany that will tell us something more about her group's proposal, Yellow is the New Green. Sophia, whenever you want.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for introducing me, Alexandra. Good morning, Ms. Evi. I am Sophia Grassa, the spokesperson from the proposal Yellow is the New Green, created by Elena Bazan, Paola Gotcha, Laura Mollenhauer, Elodie Cardinay, and me. Energy in Europe is expensive. The choice is limited and the financial support is insufficient. But the solution is right above our heads. It's the sun. We need a standard regulation in order to challenge the current market system. Boosting this green, non-polluting and freely accessible source can increase widespread demand for solar energy, making it both profitable for companies and beneficial for individuals. We want the European Union to create a common regulation on solar energy in order to make this unlimited and clean energy easily accessible for everyone. Our proposal is to create a common European Union regulation on solar energy production so that every EU citizen can take advantage of easy and cheap access to solar energy. Moreover, solar energy can increase European Union countries and individual energy independence. The regulation would include three major aspects. First, a standard funding system. The EU should evaluate the current funding systems, select out of them the best ones, and create out of them a new common standard. Second, trading agreements and know-how exchange. The EU should use its strong position as a trading partner with external countries in order to make trading agreements, to give the opportunity to buy solar technologies in the EU at a cheaper price than the market price for individuals. Agreements would also include research and development, funding, and know-how exchange. Third, spreading information. The European Environment Agency and the Agency for the Cooperation of Energy Regulators should spread information among the EU citizens and companies on solar energy production and consumption, so that individuals may have the choice to make rational decisions among a wide range of energy alternatives, and energy companies may increase their potential. This is our idea. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sophia, for presenting us your proposal. And now, once more, Ms. Evi, I would like to ask you to share your thoughts and your feedback about the Sophia's group's proposal.
Okay. I believe also this project is very interesting. I just want to point out one introductory remark. In the European Union, each member state is free to decide its own energy mix. This means that everybody can decide to use either nuclear or fossil or renewables in the percentages they deemed correct, provided that they comply with the climate objectives and with the targets that we have set at European level on, for example, reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. We have clear commitments that we also undertake, of course, at the global level with the Paris Agreement, and we took those objectives we try to put it in our legislation. Therefore, we now have, we had targets to 2020, we will now have targets for 2030, and we will now possibly and soon have targets for 2050. And the point is, you're totally right. There's an energy out there, a source of energy which is clean, which is free, which can arrive everywhere, that can be the real solution, or at least one of the real solutions to be implemented and to finally put an end to the use of fossil fuels that are causing and has caused so many damages on the planet. The thing is that still it is difficult to support one source of energy towards the others. That's why also in the Renewable Energy Directive, we talk about renewables in general, and we don't focus on each on the different source of energy. Therefore, not really. Therefore, the European Union is not saying, "Hey, we all put our effort on solar because it's the way forward." Even though, in my opinion, this really could be one of the way forward. And there's also one other aspect which is quite tricky. When you talk about renewables, also defining what is really renewable sometimes is tricky, because there are people saying that using crops to create fuels could be, I mean, it would be a renewable source of energy, but it is really damaging the planet, because we should use to create those kind of fuels, the residual part, for example, of croplands, or the residues of food, and these are those how can I say, ingredients that could be used to make some of these kind of fuels. So what is renewable? Sometimes it's also difficult to have a clear definition, and this is also quite tricky sometimes, but everybody can understand that solar energy is the renewable energy. I mean, the best one, in my opinion, it is. And there's also a nice study that came out recently, saying that we as a continent, the European Union and Europe, can become a climate neutral continent even before the 2050, which is today the date everybody is talking about to become a climate neutral continent. When we can become a climate neutral continent even before 2040 if we rely on solar energy, and if we boost energy efficiency as much as possible. These are the two real big keys and solutions we should put in place. From one hand, renewable energies, and in particular solar energy, and on the other side, the boosting of energy efficiency, as the best energy we can get is the one we don't use. If we make our building less dependent on the consumption of energy, and if we decrease our consumption on energy on each and every sector, from transport to building to waste to industry, this is really beneficial. And the residual part can be provided with solar energy and other, of course, renewable energies. This is really the way forward to really put an end to the use of fossil fuels. And there's another thing I want just to mention, because it's really important for me. We also have to change completely the way we produce energy, because today we have few bigger players providing energy to the mass and to people. We have to reverse this system. We have to have people producing their own energy, and with solar energy they can do it. And therefore it is very important that we achieved in the previous legislation in 2019 in the clean energy directive, the Clean Energy Pact, we had a specific reference to the role of prosumers, meaning citizens that can produce and consume their own energy. This is really the way forward in a way of democratizing the entire energy system. This is really, in my opinion, a very good proposal, and I hope it will be backed. One small thing I also want to, to mention on funding, because you rightly said, how can we fund and sustain the spread of the use of solar energy? Well, European Union already invest money on it, but has to be increased and has to be deployed in a better way. There are some examples. I can talk about my country because, as I said, also it's at the national level that much of these decisions are taken to stimulate and support one kind of energy compared to another. In Italy, we had a good proposal, in my opinion, a good example already taking place in some cities, where we create an energy income. What does it mean? It means that the state buy for a family a solar panel in order to tackle their energy poverty, because of course these measures, these initiatives were introduced to manage in particular energy poverty, which affect a lot of people, and we often neglect these and often forget this, but it's a real problem. So to tackle energy poverty, the state buy solar panel and with a rotative fund, and meaning that these panel and these plant create energy for the family, decreasing the bill cost, and basically giving the possibility to buy even more photovoltaic or solar panel for other families. This is really a good initiative, in my opinion, that has taken place and that could be and should be promoted everywhere in Europe. Really in line, I would say, with your proposal.
Thank you very much, Ms. Evi, and thank you for sharing all this information with us. At least speaking in my name, I really learned a lot. I didn't know half of the facts you just mentioned, so thank you very much for sharing this with us. And since we are unfortunately arriving to the end of our discussion, I would just like to steal a little bit of your time with maybe one or two questions more, if you agree with that. Because we received really a lot of questions from the ones that are following this view on this live on Facebook. So both of the questions are related to the feedback you just gave. So my first question is that you've been talking a lot about funding and targets that we should reach, but now from the point of the coronavirus emergency, in your opinion, what will be actually the priorities once we restart our normal life, let's say like that?
Yeah, we are facing a pandemic crisis never seen before, and this has taught us a lot, in my opinion. And basically, nature is teaching us that by no means the owner of the world is the man, but still nature that really owns our planet. And we have to take that into consideration, even to try to avoid that we will have other pandemics and other crises like the one we are facing today. And nature is also teaching us that we are part of the problem, and we should now look really towards the solution. And the Green Deal, the European Green Deal that was proposed by the European Commission at the end of 2019, is the way forward. And I am quite disappointed and worried about some forces that are trying to delaying objectives and targets and the putting in place of the European Green Deal and the pushes and efforts to decrease the ambition of this Green Deal. This would be a big mistake. And in this moment, I really think that we not only have to be more ambitious and take more, even bigger steps towards the Green Deal, but also the the debate we are having today on recovery fund and all the instruments that Europe is putting in place have to put a huge attention on environment aspect, because we were not living in normal times, and if we go back to the business as usual, we would make a big mistake. Therefore, I really hope there won't be no delay of the Green Deal and no steps back, and on the contrary, this is really the way forward.
Thank you. And still continuing in the same line and talking about the instruments and the funding measures that we can apply, we have received a very interesting question from Veli from Spain. Do you think that by creating a common European policy about renewable energies will encourage more European countries to really change to a cleaner energies?
Yes, indeed. The thing is that we already have a regulatory framework in place. We have now to work to improve it and to have more ambitious target. This is really the changes that we have to put in place, with much more effort on clean energies. And when I say clean, I mean the renewables and the sustainable ones, and I always keep out of the discussion nuclear energies, which for some people is still perceived as a clean energy, because yes, of course, it does not emit greenhouse gas emissions, because it does not have emissions in the atmosphere. But hey, we all know there are a lot of problems with the waste it produces, especially in terms of radioactivity. So it's important to take it into account.
And we have another question, this time by Carmen from Spain. So you said that big companies, I mean, in general, big companies have power to change policies, but what is the importance to make the citizens to become a huge lobby themselves? Like, how can we reach the point so the citizens become stronger?
Yes, this is a crucial point, and the crucial, in my opinion, change we should put in place at European level. The architecture of the European Union should be changed in order to take into account finally the voice of European citizens in a better way. Because today, what is happening? We have these three institutions: European Commission, the European Parliament, and the Council of the European Union, namely the member states. The European Commission make its proposal, which goes to the European Parliament and to the member states. The European Parliament works on it, making amendments, trying to change it, and it does it with a good degree of transparency. This is the point: transparency. Everything is translated in all the languages. The meetings are online in streaming. And so people can also follow what is happening in the European Parliament. We cannot say the same on the Council of the European Union. This is a black hole, a complete black hole. And we don't know each and every member state what is saying on each and every regulation or directive. And this is very bad for democracy, because behind the closed doors, you never know if will prevail the interest of some one big companies or a big sector, or the egoism of some member states. You don't know. You don't have the power to control, so they are not accountable, in my opinion, towards the eyes of European citizens. So the main change we should have in the architecture of the European Union is to put more transparency on all the decision-making process. And as a second point, I really hope it will be enhanced, is power to citizens. We already have some tools, for example, the petition, as I said at the beginning, but also the European Citizen Initiative, which is a sort of legislative initiatives coming from European citizens. Unfortunately, so far, it has been very weak and not very much addressed. Out of the many ECIs that have been presented to the European Commission, only, I would say, one see really a change in the legislation. Others got some positive replies, but nothing concrete, nothing real. So in my opinion, more transparency and more power to tools for European citizens to be heard and to propose changes to the legislation. This would really be beneficial in order to change this Europe, because today Europe is really at a important, crucial point. Either we really get out of this crisis reinforced and with clear objectives and with a clear vision of the future based on solidarity and on more transparency and democracy and participation, I fear it could be at its very end, and this would be very sad.
Thank you, and yeah, let's just hope we won't reach the end, and we will work together to achieve our goals. And thank you very much for all the input you have given us today. I believe that both Velizara and Carmen and all of the ones that are following us appreciate very much your opinions, and maybe this will be a good input for the new policy proposals we are going to make in the future. But unfortunately, we have arrived to the end of our discussion today. So I would like to thank both Sofia and Denita for sharing their group's proposal today with us. I would like to thank the big Youth for Europe team that's made actually happen this event today. And I would like to thank you, Miss Evi, very much for joining us today. It was really a pleasure, and we are very happy to have you today with us. So just for closing, if you would like to give a last maybe message to the ones that are following, to the youngsters that maybe tomorrow will take more initiatives in our lives.
Yes, I really want to thank you all, and I really much appreciate the proposals and the project, and I thank you also for organizing this moment of exchange. It is such important to involve not only citizens, but in particular young citizens, as of course you are the future of our continent and our planet, and everything will rely on you, and the responsibility of the old generation have to today to be taken into account, and to be I mean, they have to be held responsible for what they've done, and all the mistakes of the past really have to teach us a lot, not to repeat the same and old mistakes. So I really encourage you to be active as you already are, but to continue to push on the European institutions and on the institution and at all levels, as really we sometimes people says and media says there's a crisis also in participation and in interest of what is happening out there. I don't believe it is like this. It's just that we don't have the concrete spaces and concrete tools to have and to let people's voice to be heard. So in working on that, and the old generation have to be, as I said, realize these as soon as possible, and you have to continue to be ambitious and bold as you already are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miss Evi. I really enjoyed, and I believe I also speak in the name of the others, I really enjoyed our discussion today. And I would just like to thank everybody once again, and to remind them to follow us on our Youth for Europe Facebook page, and to stay updated with the next live talks we will have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.